did you do before Uniseed, and just tell us a bit about your background?
Okay, so I've actually had a mix of an academic research career and worked in 4 startups in Australia over the past 30 years or more. I started off, doing honours, and fortunately got a job in a biotech company after that. Ended up doing a PhD while at one of those companies and finished it off at the University of Queensland. And after that I worked under a couple of NH and MRC grants in academic research. So I appreciate that side of things. And as well, I've worked for 4 companies in both diagnostics and also cancer therapeutics. So I've sort of got a range of experiences across different disciplines.
Fantastic. And what do you think your technical speciality areas are?
Yeah, I'm probably too old now to really have a technical specialty, but my background, a lot of it's been in oncology. My PhD was looking at gynecological cancers and changes that happen on cancer cells, and using those changes to make diagnostic tests for cancer. And we developed tests that were sold throughout Europe and in Australia. And then I worked on infectious diseases as well. So they're probably the 2 areas. And again, made diagnostic tests for mainly mosquito-borne diseases such as dengue fever.
Great. Do you want to talk about some of your business skills as well, because they're pretty important in this role?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Look, having been in a number of startup companies myself, initially in research roles, but then in the latter roles in business development roles, I guess I've got a good appreciation of startups, how they work, and in one of those companies, Pan Bio, we were selling diagnostic tests, and I was a big part of the technical sales process. So, an understanding of securing customers and the importance of understanding what customers want in designing your products. Yep.
Great. And what do you like about your role at Uniseed?
I think the exciting thing is we get exposure to a whole lot of fantastic technologies across a whole lot of different disciplines, and you're also working with really smart people, the smartest, the best of the best, and so that's quite exciting to try to take these great ideas out into the market.
And what do you think the current investment landscape is like, and how has that changed over time?
Yeah, it's actually really good at the moment. It's quite buoyant. It's interesting. It's gone through cycles. If I go back to the global financial crisis in 2008, things were pretty dire, and all the money, investment money, dried up. And by that, all the super funds went away from venture capital. There really wasn't a venture capital pool in Australia. And things were pretty bad until around 2014-15, and I think a couple of the events that changed everything were a couple of exits of Uniseed companies. Fibertech sold to Shire, and Spinifex sold to Novartis. And at the end of that year in 2015 as well, Atlassian did a very big IPO on NASDAQ, and the whole mood of the environment changed, and people started to say, well, university IP, you can make money out of it. And suddenly there's been a lot of flow-on effects. The government have put more money into this biotech translation funds of 500 million. We've had new funds formed, Main Sequence Ventures, an IP group, as well as Uniseed. We've got the MRCF. But as well as that, there's a whole lot of other later stage venture funds being formed. So I think, and then high net worth investors started to take interest in the sector as well. So in one of our deals in Kinoxis, we raised $4 million, and the majority of that money was from high net worths. And Uniseed, having done those exits, then had a reputation, and so people are interested in following us into deals. So from my point of view, the whole mood's changed, and it's a very buoyant environment where we can go out and lead deals and raise, in our latest deal, which we haven't quite announced, $6.5 million. So I think it's a pretty good time at the moment.
And what do you look for in an investment?
Yeah, look, I think there's two sides. One of them is if we do 30% of our stuff's drug development, and the other the rest of it is all, I guess, product related investments. So I'll talk about both. But with biotech drugs, I think the keys are, having it's good to have a drug or some chemistry or some scaffold that it looks like a drug. And if it mightn't quite be there, we can tweak it. But trying to start from scratch with a whole chemistry program is just really hard. We also like to have some good animal data in some relevant models. And obviously then in terms of the disease, there's got to be a real unmet clinical need, and a big market is usually what we're looking for. In terms of the other end, there's two things. It's product and customers. So you want to have a prototype. It doesn't have to be the finished product, but also have some customer engagement with that product. And even if that only means you've at least engaged customers to talk to them and understand what their needs are, they're probably the two most important things. And again, a big market as well, and a need, yeah.
And what are the things that stop Uniseed investing?
Yeah, look, it's not having some of those things. A lot of the time we find there's great ideas and the market is just not big enough. And the problem for a venture capitalist is that we do 10 investments and one of them is going to work and make a lot of money. And we have to make enough money to cover the other 9 that don't work. So if the market or the potential is not really large, we just can't justify that investment for the amount of risk. So that's a big part of it. But the second one is also people. We've learnt the hard way that if we're not aligned with the people we're investing in, with the inventors or the researchers, it always ends in disaster. And so we look for people that are not only really smart, as virtually everyone is who comes to us, but they're realistic about their role in the company, and they're also willing to work and learn from you and value our expertise, because part of what we do is we think it's not just money, we're trying to add value, and it's our experience. So they're probably the two ones that really jump out at me.
Right. And can you give us an example of an investment you've done and what really excited you about that particular opportunity?
Yeah, look, I'll put 3 of them in together. First of all, in terms of biotech, we had Fibratech and Spinifex, which have done big deals with companies. But more recently, we did an investment in Conoxus, and in all of those, I think we had a lead drug or a scaffold or chemistry. There'd been chemistry done, which to me is the really risky part, getting to that drug. But we had great animal data. With Spinifex, we've got one of the world leaders in pain research in Marie Smith, who had tested her molecules in mouse models of pain, and with great results. And we knew there was a big need for a drug for nerve pain. Similarly with Darren, exactly the same thing with Darren Kelly with Fibratech. Had a lead drug. He'd collaborated with a chemist to develop a drug, and he'd done a whole barrage of testing in really great models of kidney fibrosis. In Conoxus, again, it was addiction. We had a drug, but we also had multiple animal models of addiction, in alcohol addiction, cocaine addiction, nicotine addiction. So that, for us, hedged our bets. In terms of, some of the other ones, it's often having that product and having that customer engagement, and having an enthusiastic person. So, very recently we just saw an update from one of our newer investments from Wildlife Drones, and Debbie Saunders, who has developed a really great solution, a novel solution for tracking wildlife, and has a lot of customer engagement and has some early sales, but also is a great person to work with, and really enthusiastic, really smart, really respected, but willing to listen, I guess, as well.
Great, thank you. And then what hints would you give a researcher or a student about their first meeting with you?
I think the important one is to listen. We're going to take a different perspective, and we'd never really seen any bad science, so I don't think you need to convince us about the science, but what we're really interested in is the market and the need, and we're going to ask questions that are trying to assess not only that, but also assess understand you as a person. And you've got to remember, when we're meeting you and when investors are meeting you, they're judging you, not just the technology, and trying to say, well, can I work with this person? So listen and be open. Don't be defensive, I think, is the key there.